The unexpected guests. The galaxy had seen many wars. It had seen powerful fleets clash, empires rise and fall, and alliances forged in blood. But it had never seen anything like this. The peaceful meeting had been arranged for years. The leaders of the galaxy's most influential species were gathering at the neutral station in orbit around the planet Velta, a place where long-standing conflicts were meant to be set aside for the sake of peace. A coalition of species, united for the first time in history, was here to discuss the future of the galaxy. The hope was simple: end the endless wars and finally agree on a unified peace. The room was filled with ambassadors and generals from every corner of the galaxy. The Zarkar Empire, known for its ruthless power, was present. The Thraxi Coalition, masters of cunning and stealth, sat in the shadows. Even the mysterious Varn Dominion, a technologically advanced species, had arrived to negotiate terms. As the meeting began, the atmosphere was tense. Old enemies sat in silence, exchanging only cautious glances. The future of the galaxy rested on their ability to put aside centuries of distrust and hatred. For the first time in history, the opportunity to end the galaxy's wars lay before them, but all that changed when the humans arrived. The other species had not expected them. Earth, once considered a primitive planet, had long been ignored by the galactic powers. Humanity had kept to itself for centuries, its leaders more focused on their own affairs than the galaxy's problems. So, when Marcus Cole, the human representative, entered the room, no one knew what to expect. Marcus wasn't like the other delegates. He wasn't a powerful emperor or a highly respected general. He was a simple diplomat, someone chosen to represent Earth, a species with little to no influence on the galactic stage. The others had come to negotiate their futures. Marcus had come to observe, at least. That was what everyone thought. The moment Marcus walked into the grand conference hall, the room fell silent. His uniform, a simple blue and gold outfit, didn't have the same grandeur as the others' military garb. His demeanor wasn't one of authority or intimidation, but of calm confidence. He walked with purpose, his steps echoing across the large hall. And yet, the moment he entered, a strange feeling filled the room. Fear. The delegates looked at each other, unsure of what to make of this unexpected guest. The humans were known for their ability to surprise, but no one had ever imagined they could disrupt something as delicate as galactic peace talks. Marcus took his seat at the human delegation's table, which was almost entirely out of place compared to the luxurious seats of the others. The Zarkar general stared at him with suspicion, his sharp eyes narrowing as he studied the human. The Thraxi representative, known for his icy calm, clenched his hands on the table. Even the Varn ambassador, normally unshakable, shifted uncomfortably. In his seat, "What is this?" murmured the Kreth senator, his voice barely above a whisper. "The human delegate has arrived." A member of the station staff replied, his voice almost too calm for the situation. "Let the talks begin." For a brief moment, everything was still. Then, without warning, the lights flickered. The power in the room seemed to hum, as though the station itself was reacting to the presence of the humans. The grand hall was filled with alien species, each one powerful and proud, but none had ever seen anything quite like the humans. For some reason, they felt exposed, vulnerable. "What is happening?" asked the Zarkar representative, his voice laced with unease. "Why do I feel ... The voice of the human leader cut through the silence. "We came to speak," Marcus said, his voice strong but calm. "Not to fight." But his words did not comfort the others. They could sense something they could not understand. Humanity wasn't supposed to be here. The humans had no grand fleet. They had no overwhelming power to threaten the galaxy's mightiest species. Yet, somehow, they did. The other delegates shifted in their seats, exchanging looks. Something was wrong. Suddenly, the room was filled with a low hum, a sound no one could identify. It wasn't coming from the station's systems, but from the humans themselves. The Zarkar looked toward the others, his eyes flashing with confusion. What is this? Where is the source of that sound? No one else hears it, Marcus said calmly, standing up from his seat and walking toward the center of the room. The Vaan turned to the Zarkar, his face pale. It is them. The Kreth leaned in close to the Thraxi, his voice filled with dread. We've underestimated them. The human representative smiled lightly. We did not come here to intimidate you. We came here to offer peace. But to the galaxy's strongest species, peace had never been so terrifying. The humans had arrived, seemingly out of nowhere, and had done something no one else had dared. They had not fought, nor had they demanded anything. But in doing nothing, they had shaken the galaxy's most powerful warriors to their core, and for the first time, the galaxy realized humanity was not what they expected. Unlikely fear. The room was still. Not a single voice dared to break the silence. The alien delegates glanced nervously at one another, their collective gaze drawn back to the human representative at the center of the room. Marcus Cole, once thought to be no more than an observer, stood calmly, his presence alone causing an unsettling shift in the air. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't making demands. He wasn't even showing hostility. Yet, the room seemed to pulse with a strange, inexplicable energy. The Zarkar General, a towering figure known for his relentless cruelty, looked to his fellow officers. The words he was about to speak caught in his throat. He couldn't put into words the unease he felt. There was something about the humans, something unpredictable, that made the galaxy's most feared warriors feel exposed. They were the weakest of the known species, weren't they? So why was he feeling fear? The Vaan diplomat, usually a picture of stoic grace, was fidgeting. His fingers twitched involuntarily, glancing at the nearest weapons panel, checking the distance between himself and the exit. He had never felt this way in a room full of warrior racers, but in this moment, the presence of the human made him feel small, like a predator staring into the eyes of a creature it didn't understand. Why does it feel like they're watching us? The Vaan diplomat whispered to the Thraxi representative, his voice trembling slightly. The Thraxi, known for their sharp intellect and stealth tactics, merely nodded, their cold, calculating expression giving nothing away. But even they couldn't escape the growing tension. The humans were not here to play games. I told you we were wrong about them. The Zarkar General muttered, his voice low but filled with a mixture of frustration and fear. They have something we didn't see. At the center of the room, Marcus stood still. His demeanor was cool, but his mind was calculating. He didn't need to raise his voice. The humans had long understood that in peace talks, you didn't need overwhelming strength to win. You just needed to show that you were strong enough to change the rules. Everyone's silence speaks volumes, Marcus said, breaking the tension with his calm, confident voice. We have not come to conquer. We came to talk. To show you that there is another way. The Kreth ambassador, a being whose ancient race had dominated the galaxy for millennia, clenched his jaw. He was the one most vocal against human involvement. Now, seeing Marcus stand unafraid and composed before them, The Kreth felt a twist of fear and curiosity. This was not what they expected. "What do you want, human?" the Kreth asked, his voice cold, but with an edge that betrayed his unease. Marcus gave a slight smile, the corners of his lips curling just enough to be noticed, but not in a way that was threatening. It was that smile that unsettled the entire room. "To show you that peace is possible," he said simply. "But peace doesn't come from fear. It comes from respect. And respect doesn't come from power. It comes from understanding." The room felt the weight of his words. There was no arrogance, no hint of conquest, just a simple truth. The words rang in the air, but the silence that followed wasn't just from contemplation. It was from fear, a fear that the galaxy's most dangerous species couldn't quite place. Why were they afraid of peace? The hidden strength of humanity. Delegates turned their attention back to Marcus, but the unease wasn't gone. If anything, it was growing. The humans weren't acting like the weak species they had been told about. They didn't seem intimidated by the galaxy's mightiest powers. They weren't in awe of the alien technology, nor did they flinch when faced with countless superior armies. The Zarkar general, having seen countless battles, leaned forward in his seat, his muscles twitching with an instinctive urge to confront this new challenge. But something held him back. Marcus wasn't threatening him. He wasn't issuing ultimatums. He wasn't even raising his voice. But somehow, the human was making the galaxy's deadliest warriors feel unsettled. "What do you think will happen?" "Here," the Zarkar general finally asked, his voice betraying his uncertainty. Marcus met his gaze without hesitation. "The galaxy will either accept change, or it will be left behind. The choice is yours. But you won't stop humanity." The words echoed across the room. What was humanity's true strength? The other species knew Earth was a young planet, a species that had only recently developed the ability to travel between stars. But somehow, humanity had become the one species the galaxy feared most. And now, standing before them, humanity was showing them that they were capable of more than anyone had realized. Marcus wasn't just a diplomat. He wasn't just a peacekeeper. He was a reminder that humanity, though small, had the ability to change the very course of the universe. And that was what made the galaxy's greatest species feel afraid. The tension was broken only by the quiet hiss of a Varn official, whispering to another, "They have no weapons, but they have something else, something far more dangerous." A meeting like no other, the rest of the peace talks proceeded with an uneasy quiet, each species eyeing humanity, trying to understand how such a simple species could have the power to unsettle the strongest of them all. The humans had not made demands, nor had they shown any aggression. Yet their presence had turned the peaceful gathering into something else, a quiet, underlying fear. The galaxy had long understood power through might, through weapons, through domination. But humanity had something different, something that was beginning to change the galaxy. And though the peace talks continued, it was clear the real conversation was not happening in the meeting room. It was happening in the hearts and minds of everyone present. A glimpse of humanity's power. The meeting had taken an unexpected turn. And though the peace talks continued, the atmosphere was anything but peaceful. The delegates sat stiffly in their chairs, their eyes darting toward the humans. A strange tension hung in the air, an unspoken understanding that the peace they had hoped for was slipping further away with each passing moment. Marcus Cole, the human representative, sat quietly at his table, his eyes fixed on the holographic images of the peace talks. He wasn't speaking, but his mere presence had become the focal point of the meeting. The other delegates couldn't help but watch him. The human had done nothing but speak of peace and offer nothing but civility, yet somehow he had managed to shake the foundations of the galaxy's most powerful species, the galaxy's oldest powers, the Zarkar Empire. The Thraxi Coalition and the Varn Dominion had faced many wars, fought countless battles, and ruled for millennia. They had crushed entire civilizations, taken countless worlds, and now, for the first time, they were the ones who felt the weight of fear. "I don't trust them," the Zarkar general muttered under his breath, his fingers clenching into fists. "There's something not right about them. They don't have the weapons, the power, but they have something else. It's not just their words, it's the way they carry themselves. It's unnerving." The Varn diplomat leaned forward, his gaze still fixed on Marcus, as if trying to figure out some hidden truth. "What do you think humanity truly wants, General?" the Varn asked, his voice low but filled with curiosity. "They claim peace, but I believe they are hiding something." The Thraxi shifted in his seat. "We've underestimated them, haven't we? We've believed that power comes from force. And yet, these humans have disrupted everything we thought we knew about strength." Across the room, Marcus remained calm. His expression was one of deep focus, but inwardly, he was preparing for what he knew would come next. He had not come to the meeting expecting peace. He had come to show the galaxy that humans were not weak, that they were not to be underestimated. The human revealed the silence in the room stretched on until Marcus finally stood. His voice was steady as he addressed the galaxy's greatest powers, the words carrying a weight that no one could ignore. "Peace is not just about avoiding war," Marcus began, his voice calm but firm. "Peace is not something that is handed to us. It is something we earn through sacrifice, strength, and will. And humans, we've had to fight for every step we've taken. We've been on the brink of extinction, and yet, here we stand." The alien representatives shifted in their seats. There was something in Marcus's words, something in the way he spoke that resonated deeply with them, though none would admit it aloud. His words were not that of an invader, nor a conqueror, but of a species that had fought, struggled, and survived. And it was that strength that had forced the galaxy's greatest warriors to pause and think. Marcus continued, his tone steady, but this time his voice carried more than just diplomacy. There was a quiet confidence, the kind that only a species who had endured against all odds could carry. "We are not here to conquer," he said. "We are here to ensure that we have a place among you, to show you that humanity can stand as an equal, not through the violence of war, but through our strength of will." And then, with a surprising quietness, Marcus added, "But we are also prepared for battle, if it comes to that." The room fell into a deeper silence. The Varn and Thraxi watched as Marcus spoke, realizing something: humanity wasn't just seeking peace. Humanity had prepared for war. The unseen weapon, what happened next, took everyone by surprise. Just as Marcus finished speaking, the atmosphere around the station began to shift. The station's lights dimmed, and a low hum filled the air. The alien delegates turned to one another in confusion. What was happening? Before anyone could react, a massive object appeared in the station's outer ring, visible through the large windows. The ship's silhouette was unmistakably warship, like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. It was sleek, powerful, and imposing its size, dwarfing any other ship in the fleet. It hovered in orbit above the station, like a predator ready to pounce. The other delegates stared at the ship in disbelief. "What is that?" the Thraxi whispered. "It's impossible," the Zarkar general growled. "How could they have such a ship?" Marcus turned to face them, his calm expression now matched by quiet confidence. "This is the Titan-class battleship. It's humanity's greatest weapon. But we didn't come to use it today. We came to show you that this is the kind of strength we bring to the table." The room erupted in a frenzy of hushed voices. The Titan-class battleship was a myth among Galactic engineers, a ship of unimaginable power. Its technology had never been seen outside of secret human research facilities. Yet here it was, hovering above them, its engines humming with the promise of overwhelming might. The Zarkar general gripped the armrests of his chair. "We feared the humans might have something, but this changes everything." The Van ambassador turned to Marcus, his expression a mix of awe and fear. "You've been holding this power in reserve, and you still came here for peace." Marcus nodded. "We came for peace, but we are prepared for war. We're not like the other species you faced. We fight with everything we have: our minds, our will, and our strength. If we must, we will use this power, but we'd rather not." The galaxy's most powerful species were left speechless. They had come into the meeting confident in their might, only to discover that humanity, the one species they had always underestimated, had the power to change the galaxy's future. The meeting continued, but the delegates knew one thing for certain: humanity was no longer the weak, peaceful species they once thought. They had the strength, the resolve, and the power to reshape the galaxy, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The reaction: the Titan-class battleship loomed in orbit like a silent giant, its engines humming with a quiet power that filled the room. It was a reminder of humanity's hidden strength that, until now, had been nothing but a myth. The alien delegates were still reeling from the shock of seeing this unparalleled weapon, unable to tear their eyes away from the massive warship. For the first time in the meeting, it wasn't the humans who were speaking. It was the alien leaders, a chorus of uncertain whispers, sharp questions, and murmurs of disbelief. The Zarkar general, usually quick to assert his dominance, sat frozen in his seat, staring out at the ship as if expecting it to turn its weapons on them at any moment. "How long have you had this?" he asked, his voice cold but tinged with fear. Marcus didn't flinch. "Long enough to know that peace isn't given, it's earned. Humanity didn't come here to wage war, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." The Van diplomat, who had spent years calculating every possible outcome in galactic politics, leaned forward, his eyes narrowed. "This ship, its technology, its power, how could you have kept it hidden for so long?" "It was never hidden," Marcus replied, his tone steady. "We just didn't see the need to show it. Humanity's strength isn't in weapons, it's in our will to survive. But if you threaten that survival, we will defend it." A wave of silence passed over the room. The Thraxi, known for their sharp intellect and ruthlessness, exchanged glances, unsure whether they should show admiration or caution. The Kreth, ancient and wise, sat back, their eyes dark with contemplation. And in that moment, every single alien species in the room understood. Humanity was no longer the underdog. The first respondent was the Kreth senator, the oldest and most respected voice in the room, who broke the silence. "You speak of peace, human," he said, his voice resonating with the weight of centuries. "But how can peace be achieved when the very foundation of it is built on such overwhelming power?" What guarantee do we have that you won't use this ship to dominate us when we least expect it? The question hung in the air, a challenge not just to Marcus, but to humanity itself. Marcus's eyes locked with the Kreth senator's, unwavering. We don't want to dominate anyone. We want to stand alongside you as equals. We came here to negotiate, to show you that we are not a threat to your way of life. But if you think humanity is a species you can control or ignore, then you are gravely mistaken. The room fell quiet. The Zarkar shifted uneasily in their seats, the Thraxi exchanged whispered words, and the Varn were deep in thought. Marcus had done the one thing no other species had dared to do. He had spoken truthfully and confidently, showing that humanity was not to be ruled or disregarded. You are dangerous. Human, the Thraxi said slowly, her voice cutting through the tension. You have the power to wipe out entire species, and yet you claim to seek peace. We do, Marcus said, his voice soft but filled with power. But we will not sit idly by while our future is threatened. That is the strength of humanity. Fight not because we want to, but because we must. If it comes to war, we will defend our people. But if it comes to peace, we will fight for that too. The Zarkar general, who had been quiet until now, slammed his fist onto the table. And what of us, human? What if we challenge you? What if we don't want peace? Marcus didn't flinch. Then you will have to face the consequences of underestimating humanity. The tension in the room was palpable. The alien factions had never been faced with such a direct challenge. Humanity had not only displayed a weapon of unimaginable power, but they had also shown something far more dangerous, a willingness to fight for their survival and their place in the galaxy. The galaxy's most feared species were now questioning their own power. The Kreth senator stood slowly, his long, ancient limbs moving with calculated grace. We will not back down from peace, he said, his voice heavy. But humanity must prove that it will not use this power recklessly. If your kind wishes to stand as equals among us, then we must know that you will not use your strength to crush us. We have seen what you are capable of, but now we must know if we can trust you. The Varn diplomat nodded, his sharp features contemplative. We must establish clear terms. If you are to be part of the Galactic Order, we need to know that you will respect the balance of power we've worked for centuries to build. Marcus looked around at the alien representatives, each with their own doubts, fears, and agendas. We respect the balance, he said quietly, but humanity will never bow to anyone. We've learned that peace is built on trust, not just on strength. And we are willing to prove that we can be trusted. The Thraxi representative raised an eyebrow, impressed but still wary. And what will you offer in return, human? What do you bring to this council beyond weapons? Marcus smiled. We bring something more valuable than weapons, unity. We are a species that has risen from nothing to stand among the stars. We bring the power of survival, the will to fight for a better future, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. The galaxy shifts as the meeting continued. The delegates slowly began to realize that this human species, so recently insignificant in their eyes, was now at the center of a galactic power shift. They had come to negotiate peace, but they had ended up challenging the very foundations of the galaxy's balance. The question now was not if humanity would be allowed to join the galaxy's powers, but rather how the galaxy would change to accommodate humanity's newfound strength. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. the galaxy would never see Earth the same way again. The tension in the room was unbearable. The alien representatives were no longer speaking. In whispers, they were now questioning everything they thought they knew. Humanity, a species once regarded as insignificant, had not only entered the galaxy's political stage, but had done so with an unshakable confidence that shook the very core of the universe's mightiest empires. The Zarkar, the Thraxi, the Varn, and the Krethal now watched the humans with a mix of awe, fear, and suspicion. Marcus Cole, the leader of the human delegation, had made his intentions clear. Humanity would stand as an equal in the galactic community. But the question remained, would the galaxy accept them? The Kreth senator, known for his ancient wisdom, had spoken of trust and balance, but deep down, every delegate knew that humanity's rise couldn't be so easily accepted. Peace wasn't just about words, it was about power. And the moment Marcus had shown them the Titan-class battleship, that power had been undeniable. Peace must come with boundaries, the Varn diplomat said, his voice more measured now. You claim unity, human, but the galaxy has learned, through many wars, that peace cannot exist without control. Power must be kept in check. Marcus stood tall, his calm demeanor masking the storm that raged within. We are not here to control, he said firmly, his eyes locking with the Varn representative. We are here to negotiate, but we will not bend to anyone. Humanity is no longer weak, and we will not allow anyone to dictate our future. The room fell silent. The other species exchanged glances, uncertain how to respond. Humanity had not only brought something more powerful to the table, had brought something even more dangerous, an unpredictable will to shape its own fate. The challenge. It wasn't long before the first challenge was proposed. The Zarkar general, unable to contain his disdain, stood up from his chair, towering over the others. His sharp eyes, filled with years of battle experience, bore down on Marcus. You claim peace, but you hold the universe's deadliest weapon in your hand, he said, his voice cold and threatening. What will you do when the peace you offer is rejected? Will you use that weapon against us? Marcus remained unmoved. I don't want war, but if you force us into one, I will fight, and I will fight harder than anyone ever expected. The Thraxi representative, now visibly disturbed by the growing tension, spoke up. We must test them, he said, his voice steady but edged with suspicion. We must see if humanity truly belongs here. A peace agreement is not enough. They must prove their strength. Marcus turned to face him, his expression stern. You want a test? He asked. You want to see if humanity is capable of standing against the galaxy's mightiest powers? Then I'll show you. The Kreth senator watched silently, his expression unreadable. He had lived through countless wars and conflicts, and now he was witnessing a species, humans, who were not only asking for peace, but were also willing to fight for it. Humanity was not just playing the game, they were changing the rules. The test begins without warning. A fleet of Zarkar warships dropped out of hyperspace above the peaceful meeting station. It wasn't a full invasion, but the Zarkar general had made his intentions clear. This was a test. He wanted to see if humanity would back down or if it would stand its ground. The Zarkar ships locked their weapons onto the station, their energy beams charging up. The alien fleet hovered ominously, as though daring humanity to respond. The tension in the room was palpably. The humans hesitated for even a moment. It would be a declaration of weakness. The rest of the galaxy would see that humanity had no power to back up its words. But Marcus Cole did not hesitate. He stood up from his seat, facing the alien leaders with confidence. If you intend to test us, then I will respond. Humanity will not be intimidated. He turned to his communication officer. Activate the Titan-class battleship. The ultimate display of strength, as Marcus's words echoed through the room. A low hum vibrated beneath the station's floor. The Titan-class battleship, the legendary weapon, activated its engines, the power radiating through the air like a thunderstorm ready to strike. The ship, once only a rumor, now revealed its might in front of the entire galaxy. The Zarkar general watched, stunned. The massive warship emerged from the shadows, its weapons charging with energy, ready to unleash destruction. The ship's sheer size dwarfed the Zarkar fleet, its massive hull gleaming like an unstoppable force in the darkness of space. The Zarkar general could feel the weight of the challenge. The humans had shown their strength, but they had done something far more dangerous. They had shown they were willing to use it. The Zarkar's pride had been wounded, but now they were facing something they had never expected. Human fleet capable of matching their power. The moment of truth, the Van diplomat glanced nervously at the holographic map, then back at Marcus. This is not how peace is made, human, he said, his voice a mix of awe and fear. You're showing us power, but that doesn't guarantee trust. Marcus met his gaze. We don't need trust through force. We need it through respect. But if you think we can be ignored or pushed around, then we will show you why humanity is the galaxy's most dangerous species. The Zarkar warships began to retreat, their commanders knowing they were facing a force far beyond what they had anticipated. The Van and Thraxi, though wary, watched in silence. Humanity had passed the test. The galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. The new order, the Zarkar fleet retreated, but not before sending a clear message to every species in the galaxy. Humanity was no longer the underdog. The Titan-class battleship had made its point. No longer were Earth's people to be dismissed as weak or insignificant. The galaxy had just witnessed the true power of humanity. Power not just in weapons, but in resolve, in unity, and in the willingness to fight for what they believed in. The room fell silent after the Zarkar fleet disappeared into the vastness of space. The alien delegates sat in awe, their previous arrogance replaced by reluctant respect. They had come here expecting to see humanity's weakness, but what they had seen instead was something more dangerous. A species that had learned to survive through every obstacle and emerged stronger. Humanity had faced destruction, war, and oppression, but now they stood poised to change the course of history. Marcus Cole stood at the center of the room, his eyes sweeping over the alien leaders. The humans had shown their strength, and now they were about to show their true intent. We have shown you our power, Marcus began, his voice calm but firm. But power alone does not create peace. We are not here to dominate. We are here to join this galaxy not as subjugates, but as equals. There was a long pause. The Van diplomat finally broke the silence. And if we do not accept your offer, he asked, his voice quieter now, but still filled with doubt. What if your rise is a threat to everything we've built? Marcus's gaze hardened, but there was no anger in his eyes, only steadfast conviction. Then we will fight, but not for domination, for survival. The room grew even quieter as those words hung in the air. There were no threats here, just a simple truth. Humanity would no longer bow to anyone. The galaxy's most powerful species had underestimated them once, and now They were forced to reconsider the shifting alliances. The Kreth senator, who had watched this unfold with an ancient calm, finally stood. His voice was filled with both wisdom and caution. The galaxy has long known its power structures. The strongest rule, the rest follow. And yet, these humans, he paused, turning his gaze to Marcus. You are different, and this change brings uncertainty. We do not know what Earth wants, or how you will use your strength. But we cannot ignore what we have witnessed today. Humanity's place in this galaxy has changed, and so, too, must our alliances. With those words, a shift in the room occurred. The Thraxi representative turned to the Varn diplomat, exchanging a silent, uneasy glance. For centuries, these alien empires had stood at the top of the food chain, but now they were faced with the undeniable reality that humanity was no longer a threat to be ignored. They were an ally to either embrace or fear. The Zarkar general, still brimming with pride and anger, gave a sharp nod. You humans are dangerous, he growled, but you have earned something from me today. I will not forget this. The Kreth senator looked around the room at the other delegates, his ancient eyes glinting with understanding. It is time we look at the greater good, not just our individual empires. We must decide if we will stand united or let our fear divide us. A bold proposition. Marcus stood before the galaxy's leaders, fully aware that his next words could change the course of history. But he wasn't afraid. He had seen what fear could do to civilizations. He had seen it in the eyes of the alien delegates, and now he was about to turn the tables on them. Humanity does not wish to rule. We do not wish to conquer or control. We wish for peace, but a peace that is built on fairness, equality, and strength. This galaxy has been shaped by the powerful, but humanity will show that true strength lies not just in dominating others, lies in unifying with them. I propose an alliance, a galactic council, where no species will rule over the others, where power is shared and respect is earned. The room was deathly still. The alien representatives were stunned, caught between hesitation and curiosity. They had expected humanity to ask for something else, something to satisfy their own pride. But what Marcus offered was something unprecedented, true equality. The Zarkar general was the first to speak, his voice grudgingly respectful. An alliance, a council. You wish to share power with the likes of us? Yes, Marcus said simply. We are not asking for your submission. We are offering cooperation. The galaxy is vast and complicated, but we are all part of it. Humanity may not have the oldest history, but we have learned that survival isn't about strength alone. It's about unity. The delegates exchanged looks, their previous fears slowly being replaced by the weight of what Marcus was offering. A new era, an era of shared power. It was a bold move, one that no one had expected. The acceptance after a long moment. The Kreth senator spoke again, his voice quieter but with an air of acceptance. We will not ignore what has transpired here today. We will need time to consider your proposal, human, but we are willing to listen. Marcus nodded. That's all we ask. Humanity may not have all the answers, but we have the will to find them together. One by one, the other delegates, whether reluctantly or with careful calculation, nodded their agreement. Humanity had not only proven their strength, they had proven that they were ready for something far more powerful. Coexistence, the new beginning. The meeting ended, but it was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of a new era. Humanity had not only entered the galactic stage, they had reshaped it. The greatest powers in the galaxy were now faced with a choice: to stand united with humanity, or to be left behind as Marcus Cole walked. Out of the meeting room, he looked at his fellow humans. They had come to negotiate, to prove themselves as equals, and they had done so. The galaxy had seen Earth not as a pawn, not as a threat, but as an ally. The balance of power had shifted. Humanity was no longer the underdog. They were part of something greater, and the galaxy would never be the same again.